back to the channel, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're getting some plans together for what you're going to do for the coming year as far as racing. Hopefully you'll get to do some. What we're going to talk about today is not necessarily specific tuning things, but trying to think outside the box, trying to make sure that we're tuning in a way that is common sense, not wasting time, and going to yield the best product in the end. So there's a lot of people that, for instance, will tune EcoBoost Fords. That dyno sheet right there is my Explorer on pump gas, the tune that I would sell to customers if they bring me an Explorer. That's just an intercooler and catback and 92 octane tune. Really good power. Ford's done a lot to make the drivability work really well, and it's just working to unlock it, going from the 327 wheel and 390 foot-pounds to 443 and 526 with just a few simple mods. Really wakes those up. Careful tuning, knowing how to make the boost control work properly. Not rocket science. But we get a lot of questions and emails lately and things I see online, Facebook and Instagram. People that are claiming to be tuners and don't know how to read a data log. They FaceTime tune or something. I'm not really sure what's going on. Obviously they don't tune my cars, but what I hear anyway. That's not tuning. If you don't know how to look at a data log and you just watch the gauges that are live as it happens, how are you going to process 200 channels in an 8-second pull? It's very simple. You can't. You're not a tuner. You're probably the same guy that locks your timing out at all boost levels and RPM levels in a given window, and you think that that's acceptable and that's tuning. We know that that's not how it works. We have to have timing curves. We have to look at the data. That's the important part. So this isn't necessarily something that you can do easily on the street, but what I'm going to show you is something that's not what you would think a tuner would want to do. Long ago, I saw an interview with Eddie Bello, and he was talking to someone, and he was tuning 1 PSI at a time. And if you don't know who Eddie Bello is, he's been in motorsports for a long time, really likes his Porsches, knows a lot about how to make Porsches work. And you would think that 1 PSI at a time is not important. If you've watched any of the videos in the last 6 weeks as I've picked the channel back up, you've kind of seen that I've been hitting on drivability a lot and being very specific in how you tune to make a car drivable. So this particular dyno plot is for 4 separate boost levels on an Evo 10. And the way I achieved this is because you're going to see some really low power numbers. I didn't take a pipe off. I just use the drive-by-wire and limit the drive-by-wire to a given value to artificially limit boost. Now, this isn't to say this is the power the car will make at, pardon me, a given RPM. Zoom out just a little bit so we can see the RPM. Because when you limit throttle and make a pull, you're not getting an accurate indication of what the motor would do. For instance, if it was truly NA. We know that 4G63s are not a good NA motor. I'm going to probably go with the 4B11 is not really the best NA motor. But limiting the throttle at least lets us get some of the stuff that nobody ever really seems to look at. 2,000 to 4,000 RPM transition where really we spend 99.9% of our driving. You know, it's cool to have 800 horse or 600 horse or 400 horse, but for the most part, you start the car, hopefully you let it warm up, and you drive to the grocery store, you get on the on-ramp, maybe you blast on the on-ramp, so you do one small drag race. You know, but you're tipping in and out of throttle, moving through traffic, or you find your favorite toge spot, you're going through the twisties on back roads, hopefully in broad daylight with no opposing traffic. Maybe you're lucky and you're at the tail of the dragon. Maybe you're somewhere in the Northwest having fun. Maybe you're on a track doing high RPM circuit stuff with other traffic. Transient response is very, very important. So, starting with the red line is about 2 inches of vacuum, thereabouts. An Evo 10 apparently between 2,000 and 4,000 RPM makes 37 horsepower. I think they make like 70 something foot-pounds. For the sake of not cluttering it, I took the torque off. You give it just a little bit more. You go to basically 0 inches. I think this says 0.6. I'm pretty sure in the log it was about 0. It made 59 horsepower right there, about 3,500 RPM. We'll move the cursor over a little bit, make it a little easier. 58 there. That particular one, it was starting to dive off because the vacuum was, I had the throttle a little too closed apparently. Then we jump to the green line. We can see it was holding power better. Right there it made 71.8, peak it made 73. And then that's basically 3/4 of a pound. You give it 6 pounds and it makes a sizable increase. But as you can see, it's not really necessarily what you'd expect. You'd think that jump would be a lot more. But this represents light throttle, or not light throttle, but 0 inches to light boost, what I call light boost. So 36 to 100 horse. You see the air fuel? You'd never believe what you have to do to the VE map to get that to work right. A lot of people are just going to blow through that section, and on a dyno you're not going to see it normally. And I know this from personal experience because I'd get a car on the dyno that's a 12.0, take it out on the street, and it's a 10.0. So I've learned how to figure out that part of the map and then spend a bunch of time to make all of my maps correct. Now, not all of them are wrong. I mean, I'm not that silly. I believe in having a very good drivable product. Anybody can tune Wide Open. But I think having a car that gets good fuel economy and being able to smoothly move from one RPM to another is very important. Now you look down here, 1278 air fuel, 1230 air fuel. I'm going to move this up for just a second. 1250s, 1280s. I've taken that out to a 13.5 and it's amazing. You keep picking up. This car had cams, S2s. If you have a car with stock cams, you are going to make more power down low because you can use the exhaust and better utilize that. Knowing how to do the ignition timing, really this is a dyno specific application for getting this dialed in. But if you have a good section of road that's very, very repeatable, you could do this with a product like Virtual Dyno. But we're talking gains of 2 horsepower, 3 horsepower, 6 or 7 foot-pounds. So it's really, really important to make sure it's repeatable. Why, personally, I feel a dyno is the best way if you were going to do something like this. But that's not really even the purpose. It's thinking outside the box. In recent videos, we've talked about custom tables on a Haltech, using things in the infinity in ways that maybe they weren't necessarily meant for, using the fuel trims to correct for cam position. I'd mentioned that in the fuel versus VVT episodes. I'm reasonably certain it would work, and I can show you what it'll look like. It isn't going to be anything too crazy, assuming the axis is there. I haven't looked at that. Knowing my luck, it isn't. But anyway, what I wanted to do in this video is to encourage you to spend time making your car drive right and use some imagination, use some creativity to think of ways that if you do have a standalone, you can make the car as close to stock as possible. I used to have the habit of telling customers that, well, if you wanted a stock car, you should have left it stock. And that's the people, that maybe were being a little more picky than they should have because they had giant cams and a giant turbo and giant injectors and a big rattly clutch. And yeah, okay, that one will never drive like stock. But there's a lot of these combinations that we do whether you're an enthusiast or another shop or somebody that wants to be a shop. There's a lot of these that we do that, they're really 3 to 500 horse, and that's primarily what we're going to see. We're going to see cars that there is no reason to not make them drive like stock. So little things like this section, taking the time to look at the 2 to 4,000 RPM range on your car, where you spend a lot of your time, your cam timing if you have VVT, your ignition timing. You would think that just running all the ignition timing is how you're going to get the best mileage, or running all of the cam timing is how you're going to get the best mileage. What I discovered is in cruise, Evo 10 really only wants 20 degrees of cam advance on stock cams. Their table does start at 10, so is it 10 or 20? Who knows? Who cares? The value is a 20 in the table. But that's where it makes the best power at 0 inches of vacuum. The best power is 37 degrees of ignition timing at 0. And honestly, you can pull a little bit less out and not, or pull a little bit out and not lose a bunch of power. Taking the time to find MBT, especially if you're on, less than adequate fuel. If you're not on 92 or 93 and you're on 91 in a really hot environment, stuff like this is where you're going to end up with a lot of cumulative damage to your engine because you spend all of your time here. You won't necessarily break it at wide open throttle where, yeah, it is knock free, but maybe you're silently knocking it to death at low RPM, causing ring flutter and oil consumption and the start of, I call them minor marks because it looks like a little dude with a pickaxe was beating on the piston where the detonation has started to erode or eat at the valves. Oil consumption lowers octane, so if you start burning oil in with your fuel, then your 91 octane is even worse. So anyway, I hope this finds everybody doing well. I hope that it was encouraging and you are able to take something away from it. Maybe reassess how you've been tuning cars and look at new ways to do it. Have fun. That's the point. We want to have fun with cars. Cars are not meant to be a drudgery. If you decide to do too many projects at once, yeah, that's going to be a drag. But have a car that you have fun with. Otherwise, why are you doing it, right? Anyway, guys, take care. We'll talk to you soon. If that content is something that you like, please consider giving me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. Definitely leave comments for positive, negative. Let me know where I can improve, what you guys want to see in the future. It just helps the channel and it helps get you the content that you want. If possibly you have a friend or a community group that can benefit from content like this, please consider sharing it with them. Facebook, Instagram, wherever you want to go. Lastly, if you want notified as new content is added, simply click on the bell icon and YouTube will do that for you. Thanks again, guys. Take care.